Praise the gods, for their time is nigh.
When was the last time a god mattered in your game? I don't mean were mentioned, but really mattered to the plot or stakes of your game. I'm assuming most of you played BG3.
Hello again.
Did you happen to notice how much the gods came up in that? My wife is currently doing her first playthrough, and holy hells, I had forgotten the almost non-stop references to the gods in that bad boy. I hear people talk about how rich the Forgotten Realms lore is. My hot take? It's because of the gods. You can point to Drist, but I think that just made people want to play as Drow. Dual wield and have panthers. Aside from having cities with video games named after them, why should that setting be the default for D&D in general?
It's the gods.
They directly impact the lore and culture of the world and are incredibly active. While a setting like Dragonlance can be off-putting due to an overabundance of lore, Faerun has the exact same problem, and yet it doesn't seem to hinder it in the same way. Forgotten Realms leans into its higher powers in a big way. The Time of Troubles, the Dawn War, the Spell Plague, the Second Sundering are pivotal and fundamentally important lore and history for the setting and are 100% driven by the actions of the gods. Now, I know that when I was a new DM, I found all the god stuff confusing and miasmic. I didn't know who any of these deities were, or why I should care to learn about them. Unless one of my players was playing a cleric, paladin, or warlock, I probably wouldn't even think about that kind of thing. Well, in this video, we're going to take a hard look at why and how to implement gods at your table.
Let me give you a little inside information about God.
Gods in your campaign shouldn't be boring lore dumps or relegated to background flavor. They should be active, felt forces that shape the world, influence player choices, and bring your setting to life without ever stealing the spotlight from your players. But I hear you. Gods in game can easily be abstract or unknowable, overpowered and game-breaking, pointless or arbitrary. Because of these hurdles, most people handwave the gods or keep them to the footnotes. But let's do a quick thought experiment. You're a farmer. You live just outside of Phandalin. You never much had need for the gods. Never really affected your life much, until the night the goblins came. During the raid on your farm, as you watched your children being dragged away in the night, helpless and outnumbered, you cry to the skies for aid from the first god you can think of. Torm, help me. Save my children. Now, which is the more compelling way to move forward with this story? A, nothing happens and the goblins murder you and your whole family. Or B, this is the moment of your spiritual awakening. You become a first-level paladin of Torm and fight back the goblin scourge with a pitchfork. Now, this example is admittedly a little straw man-y or false dichotomy-ish, but humor me. The latter option is probably the better one. It's active, not passive. It creates a memorable origin story, it gives motivation for your player to investigate lore about Torm, and makes the world feel a bit bigger than one little farm. Realistically, there should be no atheists in D&D. Basically ever. In a world where any 5th level cleric can literally restore life to the guy you just saw get violently murdered, most people would see utter and unquestionable devotion to the gods as not only logical and obvious, but essential to survival.
Come with me if you want to live.
Fear of provoking the ire of certain gods should directly affect customs and culture. The way people speak should have subtle variant stars. What in the hell's praise the goddess, or go with the gods, should take the place of things like, holy crap, thank God, or
Take it sleazy.
But gods are too strong and my party is only 3rd level.
well, then don't use them directly. The cultist stats exist for a reason. Call it a cultist of whatever evil bastard flavor you want, give them a goal in opposition to your players, and serve.
Bing, bang, boom, hair out, hamburger time.
Try making one of them a prophet or seer who gets visions from their god, or have them stealing people or things for a strange ritual to awaken something, or open a portal to the hells, or pandemonium, or gray wastes, or whatever dark world suits your fancy. Options galore.
Now you're thinking with portals.
Have you ever heard of Deus Ex Machina? I like my players to have agency. Thank you.
That is correct.
As it should be. If the gods are taking away player agency, you are using them wrong. Gods should be fickle, cryptic, and hands-off. They should send messages that feel like confusing dreams or work through fanatical agents. When my players foiled one of Orcus's plans, I did not have Orcus show up and TPK the party. He sent a powerful necromancer named Lady Knight to do that for him. An NPC who showed up around level 10 and still comes up and is relevant to the story at level 18 because of how the players chose to interact with her. Agency all day. But if I want the gods to actually show up? In my campaign, I've had Farlangen fast travel my players to the most advantageous positions on a battlefield to save a city. They've drank with Alabal Lawferil and smoked weed with Obed High. Rudd trained the ranger to be more skillful. Istis has given the party's leader very cryptic advice on a few occasions. Queen Titania tricked my players into rescuing King Oberon from her sister, the Queen of Air and Darkness. Father Bear is literally one of my players' baby daddies. Hell, I even had the Avatar of Ali Damara meet my players at a festival, compete against them in the Battle of the Bards, and later travel with them for several months aboard their ship. And aside from talking, he never once lifted a finger to help them with anything, because he pulled a Clark Kent and either vanished or pretended to be a helpless coward anytime things got rough. When the party discovered who he really was and confronted him about it later, he simply said there were certain rules he must abide by on the prime material plane, and left it at that. Now, enough of me evangelizing, kind of like a barber telling you to get a haircut. Let's look at some practical ways to use the gods in your games. 1 or more of your players has a deity or patron. This is the fastest way to get the gods in there. Before you play your first session, look up that being. Figure out their dogma, motivations, or desires. Ask yourself, what would this uber-powered dude want with this first-level character? Like, if the player picked a deity like Torm or Miahine, maybe the god just wants them to bring justice to the wicked and to act with honor. But if they're, say, a pact of the fiend Warlock and their patron is Grozd, he would want them to be slowly corrupted by pleasure and self-indulgence. He could constantly be setting the player up to be put in morally questionable positions, or trying to ply them with wine, women, and song. Enjoy yourself. Have another. Slowly corrupting the player into the damnation of their soul. He could start as a friendly, albeit frightening compatriot, all the while bending the player's morality, little by little, like a frog in a pot of boiling water. It's too late by the time they notice the heat. Number 2. Add a cult or fanatical follower as an antagonist. This can be a lot of fun. For a tier 1 play example, outside of your player's hometown, add a nearby cave. In that cave, add an orc tribe of maybe 10 to 12 individuals. Make 1 a cleric or priest type. If you're feeling spicy, throw in an orc hand of Yurtrus. Have those orcs be fanatically devoted to the orcish god Yurtrus, the Lord of Maggots. Yurtrus has no mouth. So sew the orcs' mouths shut for creep factor and have them poison the water source or release diseased rats in the town. Yurtrus wants to spread death and disease, and I doubt your players want their town to suffer such a fate. Number 3. Have a god, devil, or demon as the BBEG behind it all. Oddly enough, this is my current campaign. I established a demigod night hag in tier 1, had her subtly stir the pot, only interacting with the party in disguise, remaining unseen through tier 2. Then, had her directly show up and become a major threat, with her plans becoming more obvious in tier 3, and now, in tier 4, my players are inching closer and closer to a final showdown with her every game, with the world hanging in the balance. Also, because my game is ludicrously complicated and long-running, my players also unwittingly awakened a dead dragon goddess and are also spiraling toward an epic showdown with Zazmarat now as well. I did a slightly more in-depth look at that one in a pinned comment on the Zazmarat video if you care to know more. I also left a similar breakdown on the video for Beltar, as she is very well suited to a long-running plot, in my opinion. Number 4. Setting in NPCs. Blessings abound. All that too much for you? How about, who's the healer in your town? Or the spiritual leader? What gods have shrines or temples or druid groves in the region? What god is favored in your town? Or kingdom for that matter. Like, in the Theocracy of the Pale from the Greyhawk setting, they worship Foltest of the Blinding Light, making the Fultons the official religion of the Pale, with all other religions suppressed except for that of Foltest. Whereas a city like Greyhawk or Baldur's Gate and Faerun would have numerous temples or shrines to a wide variety of gods and goddesses, as they are both massive cities that are not nearly as restrictive to the religious freedoms of its citizens. If you're in an elvish city, they probably would not have many temples to Tritherion or Kelemvor, but would have shrines or temples to Corlin Lorathian, or Sehanine Moonbow. The half-orc blacksmith in town may quietly worship Grumsh, and make comments like,
By his bloody spear.
when exasperated or angry. Utilizing gods in your setting can create natural plot hooks, factions and conflicts, cultural depths, things like holidays, rituals, and taboos, and greater stakes. Adding these layers of nuance to your game help make the world feel more real and lived in, and less like the sun and moon revolve around your players. This doesn't diminish their role in any way. It just helps them to not be the center of the universe. I find this all helps build a rich world with realistic motivations that hold up under scrutiny. For logical reasons alone, the gods should matter, so make them. Now my question to you. If you had to pick one deity in your campaign to expand on and utilize, who would it be? Now, if you have ideas, suggestions, questions, comments, cries of anguish, sacred oaths, or vile curses, spit them in the comments section below. And may the gods walk with you always.